That's exactly what I was going to ask. Yeah, it was beautiful and everything, and I love the theory, and I feel I got it. I don't know if I did, but I did. I hope. But the thing is how we can really apply it. How can I use the Odaimoku to achieve those 4 areas? That's what we are interested. So if you can enlighten us a little bit, that would be wonderful.
Okay. So my experience with chanting initially was I was told in not in Nichiren Shu, but in other groups I had practiced with, that you should just chant for what you want, right? What eventually happened was, as I worked through my feelings about the practice and experiences of the practice, it came about that I would sit in front of my butsudan, where my Gohonzan, or focused devotion, is enshrined, and I would begin chanting Daimoku. And at first, I would think about all the people in my life that were important to me. I would think about my parents. I would think about my family and good friends, and it was kind of a wishing of loving kindness, of may they be well and happy. And I would just kind of hold all them in the Daimoku. And after I had done that, then I would start chanting about some concern in my own life, right? Like if if I needed a better job, for instance, or if I was worried about an argument that I had with someone and how could I resolve that. So I would just start chanting about that. Now, I wouldn't necessarily chant for a specific outcome, but my feeling was, as I was chanting, that with the chanting, I was presenting these problems to the Buddha, in a sense, but not the Buddha as an external being, but to just here words kind of fail me, because when we're looking at this isn't like the full 10 world mandalas, it's just the Daimoku, but whenever even the Daimoku is present, it's implied that you are participating in the ceremony in the air in the Lotus Sutra, that Shakyamuni Buddha, many treasures Buddha, all the bodhisattvas, all the gods, all of the beings gathered, in that assembly, that you're entering into that. You're entering into this Buddha world. And in that atmosphere of practice, of being in the Buddha world, awakening your Buddha nature, it kind of sheds a different light on your problems. You get a different perspective. You're stepping outside of your own narrow, worried, or greedy, or overly optimistic, or whatever, or anxious perspective, and you're presenting all of this just raw, real, all your worries, all your hopes, all your fears. You're just presenting it in this new atmosphere, this elevated atmosphere, in the presence of the Buddha. And then you can let it go, right? At least that's my experience in my practice. You just let it go. And after a while, chanting about what's going on in my life, I would just settle down into the chant itself, or just release that and just be with the Daimoku, just be with the sound of Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. And, oftentimes just to be able to release things like that and to have that different context, it allows a different answer to come to you, right? A different way of relating to your problem or the other person. You might realize that, maybe this person doesn't dislike me, but maybe they have a problem because I don't smile enough. I don't smile and say hello when I come to work, and they think I'm the one who's being unfriendly, right? Or I realize maybe this other person, they have all these personal problems that have nothing to do with me, and I'm just taking them as being cold, when maybe I should be a little more patient, a little more compassionate. Suddenly I would get a very different perspective on how to deal with this other person. And with that kind of insight, if I do something with it, if I try a little more to enact what I've learned in my practice, and I smile, I say hello, or I'm more ready to listen instead of pass judgment, I find that my relationships improve. Or I find that I see opportunities I didn't see before, and I'm able to take advantage of those, and then that helps improve my life. And so that's one way of applying the Daimoku. Another way is a more formal style. In Nichiren Shu, we have a practice called Shidaigyo, where you practice sitting meditation to kind of purify your thoughts and your atmosphere and get settled so that you can really chant Daimoku from a calm, centered place. And then you chant for a while, usually with a taiko drum. And there's different tempos. You start off slow, go fast, go back to slow. And you can do that for a few cycles. And you could do this for half an hour or a couple hours. When we were training on Mount Manobu, we did it for a couple hours or more. Often, though, here in America with lay people, we usually only do it for about half an hour, 40 minutes. But in any case, after the chanting, you go back into another period of silence. So you can just sit with the power of the Daimoku that you just chanted. And what I discovered is in that first period of silent sitting, you could, because often people have trouble just keeping their mind open and aware without anything to focus on. So one thing I realized people could focus on is the cultivation of loving kindness, or compassion, or sympathetic joy for other people, or equanimity. These are what are called the 4 divine abodes, 4 different ways of contemplating to cultivate one's emotional state and bring about a more positive feeling. So you could chant for that loving kindness, just like as I said, when I first sit in front of the Gohonzon and chant, I think about my family and friends and other people that I'm concerned about. So in this, you just sit and you think, may all beings be well and happy. And then you just roll that over in your mind as you're sitting. And then you start chanting Daimoku. And now the Daimoku becomes a way of sending that loving kindness out. It becomes like a carrier wave. So that's one way of cultivating the kind of loving kindness that, as I said, counteracts resentment and hateful feelings and paranoid feelings. So that's an example of using the third aim, the therapeutic aim. So the Daimoku, even though it might look like the same practice all the time, just chanting Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, the setting that you have in your mind can really change how it's being directed, either towards worldly concerns or improving yourself or addressing some kind of problem, or chanting with the aspiration to attain awakening for the sake of all beings, the 4th aim. It is all there in the Daimoku.